One of the most iconic boss characters in the history of fighting games is finally back as a playable character in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, and that is Krauser. And in this video, I'm gonna give you a full guide on how to play the character, going over his neutral, pressure, defensive tools, and also a couple of combos to get you started. If you want to see more content like this for Fatal Fury or other fighting games as well, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to support the channel. And now, let's get into the guide. And well, when it comes to playing neutral with Krauser, there are two moves that you need to understand and use a ton in your gameplay. The first thing are Krauser's fireballs, quarter-circle-back, light punch, and heavy punch. You have different angles for the fireballs, similar to Sagat's, projectiles from Street Fighter. You can also do EX to cover both things at the same time. It is a little bit slower, but much bigger. And then you can also charge the fireballs, okay? And here's where the sauce comes when it comes to neutral with this character, because when you charge the fireballs, they're slower. Significantly slower in terms of approaching the opponent. So you can move behind them. Of course, you cannot really move that much because Krauser has a relatively small dash. He doesn't have a run. So he can't just get in super easily like Hotaru on Season 1, for example, right? But the thing is, here's where the second move comes, and it is quarter-circle forward heavy kick, okay? This move is a neutral skip that is plus on block, similar to kind of like a bar knuckle, right? And it's really good. It has a lot of range, and on kind of like the tip range, it's actually even more plus 3 or 4. But the thing is that since you have this, you can do stuff like that, okay? So this character essentially has an opportunity to play neutral on a very, very offensive but also high control way, because you can use the fireballs to control the screen like crazy, be ready for people when they try to jump in with your anti-air dodge attack, and also with your DP motion with punches, because they are kind of like your signature anti-airs, right? And then when you're controlling the neutral and you have access to the fireballs and everything and people are actually respecting you, you do charge fireball into neutral skip, and boom, you're in +2, and the other person is either gonna get frame trap, mix, depends on the option that you apply on offense, right? You have to practice the range of this because it's not exactly, full screen, but it's really good. I have to say that this is one of the best options to play neutral in the game, probably +4 if you actually do it max range. So yeah, that would be kind of like your neutral game plan in the most basic and stable way. And then on top of that, as a second layer for Krauser's neutral, when you get comfortable with the fireballs, with the neutral skip, right, and you get good at anti-airing, you can start thinking about mid-range poking. This character has really good normals in the mid-range, they have a good range, and you have far heavy kick, pretty good in terms of range, and you also have forward heavy punch. These are gonna be the normals that you can use kind of like on round start, and also to play footsies when you're closer range. They are both cancelable into supers, so you can get good damage out of interactions like this. If you're ready to hit confirm it, you can practice that, of course, but it does a ton of damage actually with a level 1. And then obviously these same normals are going to be your whiff punishment buttons, and they can give you a lot of damage from relatively simple combos. There you have an example. It's over 500, I think, almost 500, and it's only one level 1 and 2 EX moves from the wild punish counter state for whiff punishing somebody. So it is a relatively simple kind of like game plan that you need to follow, just playing that full screen kind of like neutral control character, getting ready with the anti-air so that people don't jump in on you for free. In between, when you condition people, you can start doing this type of sequence with the charge fireball, right? It even connects on hit if you actually time it right. And also, then you start playing footsies in the mid-range when you feel comfortable with all the other basic options. Oh wait, I almost forgot, but Krauser also has the level 1 super privilege, just like Marco. So if you see people throwing fireballs like it's nothing, remember that you have a fireball super that beats essentially any other fireball in the game if you time it right. Okay, now we can move into pressure up close. How do we open people up? And how do we keep the pressure going with plus frames? The two best normals I would say that you need to use is close heavy kick into down feint and also close light kick. Both of these options are +3 on block, super good, and then you can continue the block string in whatever way you want. On top of that, you can also do close heavy punch into down feint, but it's only +1. And then if you do the full kind of like sequence of normals from close heavy punch, which is also doing forward punch after, and then you down feint, you're +2. I would say that it is pretty strong, it's good, but I would prefer to always do the close heavy kick because it's more plus frames, so why would you not do it, especially when you're even closer to your opponent? So maybe you have better opportunities to do kind of like tick throw situations or open people up when they're being overly respectful of the plus frames with grabs. So that's kind of like what you can do when it comes to being plus. You also have far heavy punch, and it is +1 on block for some reason. The normal doesn't have that much range in comparison to kind of like your pokes, so I do understand why it is plus, but since it is only +1, again, it's not necessarily the best option. Now, why is it good? Because you can do stuff like close heavy kick down feint into far heavy punch, and you're plus again. And people here are probably gonna think that you're not plus, and that means that you can do something like standing far light kick, okay? And it's probably gonna catch people from pressing unless they press something really, really fast, but at least you're probably just gonna clash. So it is a really good block string if you want to catch people when they try to stop you after you do your +1 far heavy punch. Those are kind of like the best options to just be plus all the time with block strings. Then you can also add a couple of options from EX moves if you want to use meter to be plus in your block strings, and you can do stuff like this. For example, EX Firewall is +2 if you're close, and then in the mid-range it can be insanely plus, like +15, +16, depends on the range, but you're not that far away if you do like EX Firewall from here. You can do stuff like forward heavy punch after, so it's really strong in the mid-range. And then on top of that, you also have quarter circle back and kicks. This is kind of like a combo fodder move, but in this round start range, it's actually plus on block because it's kind of like the tip of the knee animation, so it hits you with like the late frames of the move, and you're plus on block. But I wouldn't use this as much as just doing EX Fireball, to be completely honest with you. And those are some options for plus frames using actual meter. And if we're going to talk about pressure, we also have to discuss mix-ups. What are the best options for Krauser to open people up on defense? First, he has a command grab, just like you saw there. It is half circle back forward and then light kick or heavy kick. The light kick version is much faster but has less range. And the heavy kick version is actually really interesting because it has a little bit more range, but he also has armor when he does this, which is really good. So for example, we can put Terry to mash a button, and then if we do the heavy kick command grab, it's actually just gonna go through it, okay? He can press whatever normal he wants. This is gonna win that interaction. And it is really, really strong if you think that people are just gonna press a button on wake up, or maybe in this kind of like close range, boom, you just command grab them because it has a decent amount of range, and you win the interaction if they actually mash. So it is a relatively strong option against people that just like to press a ton of buttons. And please don't forget that since you have a command grab, you have an EX version of it, and in this game you can cancel it into other moves, so you can get full combos out of your command grab with Krauser. And then on top of this, the other thing that Krauser has is an overhead, okay? His overall kind of like high-low mix-up is not necessarily the best because from lows, he doesn't get anything except for like super interactions and then doing a quarter circle back kick, and that's kind of it. And from the overhead is essentially the same because from the overhead you can connect or link more light punches. So it's kind of like the same sequence essentially, and those are your best kind of like overhead low mix-ups, and that would be kind of it. It is not necessarily the best, of course, but this character doesn't really chime because of overhead low mix-up, so it is something that you need to be aware of. And if you want to maximize kind of like your gameplay with this character, I would say it's either putting people up on plus frames into strike throw mix-up, or just keeping the plus frames over and over, and then your command grab. I think that those are the best options. You still obviously have the lows and the overhead, which is forward light punch, but it's not necessarily the best on his kit when it comes to damage and either opening people up. And the last thing we're gonna go over when it comes to pressure is the Fireball Super again. I know, it's good for neutral, it stops fireballs, it wins kind of like the Fireball War, right? But on top of that, you can charge it just like your regular projectiles by keeping the bottom press. And what happens is that it does a ton of damage to the rev gauge, okay? It does 80 to 85 damage to the rev gauge of the opponent if they block it, which is absolutely crazy. And what that means is that if you have the resources and you're a space from the opponent so they cannot punish you if they block the super, then you can do stuff like this. People are on hard knockdown, you do the super, charge it all the way to purple, and you have a guaranteed 70% damage to the enemy rev gauge, and you're minus 25, but a space. They're not going to be able to punish you from here. And the other thing, on top of all of this, is that if we set Terry to do a super and wake up, which would be kind of like the logical answer to not deal with all the damage to the rev gauge, we win the interaction, okay? So you need to know how to use this super. It is absolutely busted. One of the best things about this character, if you have the right setups to put people on kind of like overheat over and over. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about defense with Krauser. What are the best defensive options that this character has? First, you have to remember about your red blow, okay? You have a pretty good red blow on the ground. It has a lot of range, and of course, it's going to be useful in between block strings when there's gaps, especially if the enemy doesn't have SPG themselves to do their red blow as a punish, right? The red blow in the air is not that good. I would avoid using it. It is very linear, like he goes almost like completely just down. It doesn't have any sort of forward angle, so I wouldn't use this move that much. If you want to use red blow, use the one in the ground, is much better. And then you also have two other options. The first one is double quarter circle forward kicks, because you have an invincible DP, okay? But it is a super. You need to use meter to have access to a reversal with this character, to a true reversal. But you do have it, so don't kind of like forget that if you're in a very cheeky situation and you really need to DP, just double QCF kicks and you get your DP either with that or with the level 2 version, which is done with heavy kick. And then finally, the other thing that you need to take into account is that remember that we said that the heavy kick command grab has armor. And what that means is that you can wake up, if you input it right in the right timing, you can wake up with this move. And if people are just pressing normals on offense, they want to get their plus frames going in their turn, you're going to win the interaction unless they do something to get in the air, because there are ways to actually like do this thing on wake up. People press their normals, and if they do something that is jump cancelable or they do a special move that is in the air, then you're going to be whiffing, because there is a big window of time to actually hit Krauser while he's doing the command grab with armor on wake up. But it is an option, like it is the only thing that the character has that's like fully meterless, no rev gauge, also no super meter, and is the defensive like resource that the character can use on wake up to stop people from always running their offense. So those will be the three things that you need to be aware of: your armor command grab, also your SPG options right in the ground and in the air for defense, specifically the one in the ground is better, like I said, and your reversal with double QCF light kick or heavy kick. And now we get into the last part of the video, which are combos. And in this, I just want to give you a couple of basic BnBs to get started. I'm going to talk about why I'm giving you this combos specifically, and then I'm also going to put all the notations on the screen so you can have kind of like both things at the same time. When it comes to getting combos from lights or from your overhead, which is forward light punch, you just have to do strings of lights into quarter circle back light kick. That's kind of like the only thing that you can do. And the same from your overhead, right? You can do something like this. And if you have the meter, you can change that and do it all the way until standing light punch, and then do a fireball super. That's kind of like the only sequences that you can use when it comes to lights and overhead combos. Of course, later, maybe there's going to be like a meaty setup with overhead that is going to be more plus, and then you might get another combo route from that interaction on Oki. Then when it comes to your regular BnBs, I would recommend you to always start your combos with standing heavy kick up close. And the reason for that is because this is plus on block. And what that means is that if you go on pressure and you do this, right? You do your close heavy kick into down feint and you're +3 on block. And if you hit people and they don't block this, you just do your stand heavy punch after and it combos for free. So it's kind of like an automated sequence of pressure. If they block at your plus, if they actually get hit, then you do your quarter circle back heavy kicks with the X, and you get a free combo. Then you do DP light punch, which is your end tier, and it's also a combo fodder ender, and boom, you have a hard knockdown, 361 damage. And this actually is one of the characters in the game that can get hard knockdowns without doing SPG or red blow, because he has command grab fillers for the combos, right? So those would be kind of like the basic BnBs that I would use with this character. Then obviously you can do the same combo routing from jump-ins, exactly the same stuff, and it does a little bit more damage. And then if you want to get kind of like the most damage without using too much meter and rev gauge, the most optimized kind of like combo that you can do is actually adding another EX move, and that's it, and a super. So what you do is that you do quarter circle back kicks, then you do your fireball fully charged in EX, then after that you do quarter circle back heavy kick feint into a super, and it will look something like this. And that's kind of like the more optimized combo routing that you can do, that is simple, but it still does a lot of damage. You can do the same from a jump in, of course, like I showed before. And if you actually happen to get something like close heavy punch up close, you can still do super similar combos. You just have to change the normal that kind of like links after the plus frames in the combo routing, and that would be it. I would encourage you to keep the combo simple and use only these routes because it's going to help you to understand the character faster and just worry about the important stuff, which is the neutral, how to open people up, and the combos will come naturally over time. So that was the video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. If it was useful or it helped you to learn the character or something new about Fatal Fury, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to support the channel, especially if you want to see more content for Fatal Fury in the future and other fighting game guides as well. Thank you for watching, take care, and enjoy Krauser on City of the Wolves. Bye bye.